Let me welcome all of you, honorable members and honorable MEC and your entourage. We haven't met for a long time, so we are happy that we are back in court. Honorable members, before we start, you must know that this session is recorded. You are live. People will be watching what is exactly happening with Limpopo at Scopa. So you are welcome, honorable members. Let me go to before the agenda. Maybe if we can start with the introduction. On our side, I will introduce myself, then we'll continue like that, and from there we'll hand over to Honorable MEC. My name is Mapula Mukama, the chairperson of today for Scopa. I'm your chairperson in the economic development. Honorable Mudaga, you can continue.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to your honorable MEC, honorable members. My name is Falaz Amdak. I'm a member of the committee. Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Ando, member of the committee. That's Haraki AR.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Desiree van der Walt, member of Scopa.
Good morning. My name is Cedric Sishoka, a member of this committee.
Good morning. My name is Jacob, and I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning. My name is William Kari. I'm the committee coordinator for Scopa. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Madam Leda, the researcher.
Emily Masamula, the researcher.
Good morning, Katshiro Merwin, researcher.
Morning, I'm Ghana D, the committee coordinator.
Morning, my name is James Mako, I'm a researcher of the EFL Research.
Good morning, Saul Mori, Communication Services in the legislature.
Morning, Kevin Kala, Legal Services.
Good morning, Mawala Nikhil, Communication Services.
Treasurer.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable MEC, and this entourage. My name is Portia Singh, Commissioner Accountant General. With me, I'm with Ms. Matabos Chocho from the Provincial Treasury.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Let me hand over to honorable MEC.
Okay. Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, honorable chairperson of the committee, honorable members, representative from the Treasury. My name is Munama Rogers, and I'm responsible for Limpopo Economic Development, Environment and Tourism. I'm with the Board of Directors of the Accounting Authority for Leda, Limpopo Economic Development Agency, and their subsidiaries. So with your indulgence, Chair, I will humbly request the interim chairperson to introduce himself and request everyone to introduce themselves together with their designation.
Thank you, honorable MEC, through you, honorable chairperson and members. My name is Chipiani Tito Mbadime. I'm the deputy chairperson for the I will ask all members of the board and the officials that I'm going with to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Trakani Makuba. I'm the Group CEO of Leda. Thank you, honorable members.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. My name is Pumrani Magidi. I'm the CFO for Limpopo Economic Development Agency.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, MEC. My name is Matozera Tumbu. I'm the head of department for Legal.
Good morning, Chair. Members, my name is Fundi Malaza. I'm the chairperson of the board on this committee for GMT.
name is Scopa, Director, Muslim Macro Special Economic Zone. Good morning, Chair, MEC. My name is Majake. I'm the CEO of Leda.
Good morning, Chair, Honorable MEC and committee members, everyone who's here. My name is Mdung Kosi, CFO of New Era Life Insurance.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC. My name is Richard Zita. I'm the Executive Manager, Investment Promotion in the Muslim Academy. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members, MEC. My name is Kabu Nkadime from Corridor Mine Resources.
Morning, Chair. My name is Ishmael Sawani, acting CFO GT.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members and MEC. My name is Peter Make, shareholder rep in Leda.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, MEC. My name is Rizin Kachwa. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Great North Transport. Thank you.
Morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC. My name is Baldwin Ramaswan, interim CEO, Limpopo Connection.
Morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Ntsewa Mukoban, interim COO Leda.
Morning, Chair. My name is Ndiambani Magadagera. I'm the chairperson of New Era.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, honorable MEC. My name is Matata Mukweli, CEO of Great North Transport. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC. My name is Pakani Patramshaka, Head of Office, MEC's Private Office.
Good morning, Simon Maluleke, Parliamentary Officer.
Good morning, Chairperson, the MEC and members of the committee. My name is Limpopo. I'm the interim CEO of Petakomutubaze SEZ.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members. Good morning, MEC. My name is Shimano Kaning, representing Prisima. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me start again with honorable members. The coordinator, apologies on your side.
Oh, thank you very much. We have received apologies from the following members and staff. Honorable Mate MS, he has got family commitments. We also have Honorable Makuru Peje. We also have
Honorable Makuru Peje of what? You explained the first one that Mate's family commitment, then with Makuru Peje.
or other political commitments. We have Honorable Siono. She is on an oversight visit. We also have Honorable Maseko on an oversight visit. We also have an apology from AXA. They are held up with audits. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable MEC, on your side, an apology.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chair. On our side, we have an apology from Ndate Lehlono Nomasoba. Is not around due to other work commitment. Together we have apology from Ms. Ntia Makatakere, the chairperson of New Era. She has to undergo a surgical procedure by 11:30 will leave. But also, Chair, it will be fair for us to introduce to you their new faces. That year, I think the HOD when we came here was acting. Now is permanent, is appointed. Dr. Matoti, and also the CEO of New Era, Dr. Magetsi Majaki. If he can rise so that you see. Is the Majake is a youth. Also, we have Mr. Aleveti, who is on a sick leave. He's the chairperson of CMR.
No, thank you, Honorable MEC. Apology accepted, and congratulations, all the best. Honorable members and the Honorable MEC, I hope we will have agenda in front of you. We have, we are going to deal with, we have 10 We have agenda in front of you, honorable members, which is number 1 is opening, welcome. Number 2 is welcome and chairperson's remarks, and then the introduction. 3.1 members of Public Account Committee. 3.2 legislature staff. 3.3 Office of the Auditor General. 3.4 Provincial Treasury. 3.5 MEC and team leader. 3.6 apologies. Number 4 is question and response on 2021-2022 financial year. Number 5 is follow-up question and clarification. Number 6 is recommendation. 7, comment by AG. 8, comments by MEC. 9, way forward. 10 is announcement and closure. Honorable members, any one of you can adopt the agenda. Honorable Pala and thank you, Honorable Pala. Honorable Sushoka.
Thanks, Chair. I second the motion as presented by Honorable.
Thank you very much. We are now on number 4, which is questions and responses on 2021-2022 financial year. Honorable members, I'm going to come to you. We are going to start with question number 3. 1 and 2, we are still busy with it, then I think we'll deal with it when we attend the Scopa. So there are still other resolutions that are still busy with. So we only start with question number 3. Maybe I will start with you, Honorable Mudaga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Question 3 on irregular expenditure and consequence management. Executing Authority, on paragraph 31 of the AG's report, the AG was unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that disciplinary steps were taken against officials who had incurred irregular expenditure as required by Section 5.1, paragraph 5.1, subparagraph 1E2 of the PFMA. The irregular expenditure amounts to 198 million in the year under review, and the cumulative amount is 521,370 million as at 31st March 2022. This was due to proper and complete records that were not maintained as evidence to support the investigations into irregular expenditure. Why did the entity fail to take disciplinary steps against officials who had incurred irregular expenditure as required by Section 5.1 as I alluded above? B, why did the Accounting Authority fail to maintain evidence to support the investigations into irregular expenditure amounting to 198 million in the year under review and 521,370 million cumulative amounts? C, how far is the entity on recovering the overpayment on board fees from the directors? D, if the overpayment has not been recovered, why is that the case? E, who were the responsible officials? F, what action has been taken against the responsible officials? G, What measures did the accounting authority put in place to prevent the recurrence of this authority? I thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And sorry, I don't have my reading glasses today.
No problem, Honorable Mudaga. Thank you very much, Honorable Mudaga. Question 4. Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry because for the first time here, my advisor is just next to me. Honorable MEC, we are going to respond to question number 3. They've just read it. So any one of you who's responding, please just introduce yourself again and also your position. Hand over to you, Honorable MEC.
Okay, thanks very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable members of the committee, colleagues. Let me allow the interim chairperson to respond to some of the questions, but the ones that have been directed to the executive, the authority, I'll also respond later when they are done.
Thank you, Honorable
Mr.
Chair.
Kadimen, okay. And I think you are going to tell us the truth. You can just raise your hands and tell us that you are going to tell us the truth. Only the truth.
Only the truth, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Chipian Titonkarimeng again. With your indulgence, Chair, ask the CFO, CEO to read the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable members. My name is Takani Makuba. I am the Group CEO of Leda. I will be responding to the question 3A. Leda responds. Leda acknowledges its slow pace in implementing the disciplinary process. However, consequence management is being implemented on all confirmed irregular expenditure instances. Refer to Annexure J for the detailed reports on the irregular expenditure condoned and consequences management implemented. Furthermore, the table below outlines the summary progress made in addressing total irregular expenditure. I would like to, honorable members, in terms of the notes to the progress made to date, Leda Group has submitted an application in the amount of 560,872,902.78 for condonment by the Provincial Treasury. As a result, an amount of 74,084,000 for Leda agency was approved for condonment. The GNT board approved the investigation reports for 2017-18 and 2018-19 unwanted expenditures and application for consequence management. The consequence management process is expected to be completed by 30 June 2023. GNT has submitted a request to Provincial Treasury for the condonment of the following irregular expenditure transaction and still awaiting approval. Diesel, out of contract procurement, 337 million. Copano bus service, subcontracted GNT routes, 145 million. As suggested by LPT, the GNT board has further approved for GNT to participate in the National Treasury Transversal Contract, RT 70/2021 for diesel for 12 months to assist in curbing the continuation of irregular expenditure. Accordingly, formal submission for GNT to participate has been sent and acknowledgement of receipt was received from the National Treasury on Friday, 14 April 2023. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, this is the response in respect to question 3A. Should I proceed?
Proceed to B.
My name is Takani Makuba. I'm the Group CEO of Leda. I'm responding to question 3B. Accounting Authority acknowledges that all the time Auditor General was auditing the Leda Group. At the time the Auditor General was auditing the Leda Group, Leda did not have proper record keeping to support the investigation into irregular expenditure, as the investigation was not yet finalized. Hence, it could not be maintained and supported. Refer to table on irregular expenditure above in outlining the progress on irregular expenditure. Question 3C response. The Executive Authority has investigated the overpayment of board fees, wrote a letter to the Accounting Authority to pay the overpayment of directors' fees and approved the board remuneration policy in accordance with National Treasury rates. In addition, the Leda Board of Directors has written to the Executive Authority on the directors' fees repayment as stipulated in Annexure D. In anticipation of the response from the Executive Authority, there has yet to be any recovery thus far. The Executive Authority acknowledges that there was a delay in recovery of directors' fees and the matter is being addressed. Leda responds to question 3D. The overpayments have yet to be recovered. The board has since written to the Executive Authority to request that the overpayment be condoned. The Executive Authority does not support the condonment and is instructing Accounting Authority to make arrangement to settle overpayment amounts. Refer to Annexure D for the submission to the Executive Authority. Who were the responsible officials? This is the response, honorable members, to question 3C. The responsible officials comprise board of directors that were present at the time December 2019 to February 2020 as listed in the table below. Leda responds to question 3F. Executive Authority has written to the Accounting Authority to instruct the Board of Directors present at the time to repay the overpayment. Leda responds to question 3G. Subsequent to the occurrence...
Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Kana.
What is happening there is an anomaly. As the Honorable MEC and the Chairperson of the Board know very well, and the CFO and the HOD of the department, that when it comes to this committee called the Standing Committee on Public Accounts or the Portfolio Committee, the person who accounts is the Accounting Authority. If you read Section 36 of the Public Finance Management Act, number 1 of 1999, it says, if it is a department, a person who is the head of department is the chief executive officer, is the accounting officer, who is the officer who accounts on behalf of the department. If it is a board of an entity, the person who accounts is the board, which is the accounting authority. And therefore, the person who must answer to us is the board. And I'm sure you saw, they mentioned a lot of board members that are here, that's point 1, including the chairperson. So the CFO and the HOD, they can add, if you get the point. The CFO can come in where finances are involved, to clarify finances, and the HOD can come in from time to time also. But they are helping, because this is not the department of limited accounting, if you get the point. It's the entity called Leda, and therefore that entity, the authority that accounts to the legislature, which is us, is the board. That's what the law says. So what is happening is a total anomaly which should not happen.
Honorable MEC, thank you, Honorable Pala, for clarification. Honorable MEC, I think you heard loudly so and clear that if you can maybe try when we respond to the right thing. So the person responsible, let be the one to respond.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. I think in terms of Section 51 of the CFM, the Honorable Member is quite explicit and correct. That's why I said that the interim chairperson is the accounting.
Honorable MEC, I forgot, every time when you respond, start with your name. You don't have to stand up.
I give it to me, you're the honorable member. Okay, thanks very much. I'm Rogers. I'm the MEC responsible for economic development. We just wanted to express our profound regret because I thought I was very clear to say that the interim chairperson, as the accounting officer, should be the one who has to respond accordingly. Unfortunately, he has done what we call delegated powers, which I think is not permissible, but we heartily apologize, and the accounting authority will duly respond to the questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Apologies for making such dedication. With your indulgence, Chairperson Leda, with your indulgence, Chair, I'm not sure if we restart again from the beginning or we just go to F.
Yeah, we can go back to the beginning, just respond to where you're supposed to respond. That's it. That's why we're saying let the relevant person be the one to respond. And maybe when you are done, maybe other people they can add.
Yes, let's start with Leda acknowledges its slow pace in implementing the disciplinary process. However, consequence management has been implemented in all confirmed irregular expenditure incidents. Refer to Annexure J for detailed response on the irregular expenditure control and consequence management implemented. Furthermore, the table below outlines the summary progress made in addressing the total irregular expenditure. Note progress made today. Leda Group has submitted an application in accordance of amount of 560,872,978 for condonement by Provincial Treasury. As a result, an amount of 74,084,000 for Leda agency was approved for condonement. GNT approved the investigation report for 2017-2018 and 2018-2019 unwanted expenditure and application for consequence management. The consequence management process is expected to be completed by the 30th of June 2023. GNT has submitted a request to Provincial Treasury for containment of the following irregular expenditure transactions and still awaiting approval. Diesel, out of contract procurement of 337 million. Scopa bus services subcontracted GNT route of 145 million. As suggested by LPT and GNT board has further approved for GNT to participate in a national treasury transversal contract RT70/2021 for diesel for 12 months to assist in keeping the continuation of the regular expenditure. Accordingly, formal submission for GNT to participate has been sent. An acknowledgement of receipt was received from National Treasury on Friday, 14 April 2023. Proceed to B. Accounting Authority acknowledged that at the time of Auditor General was submitted, the Leda Group, Leda did not have proper records keeping to support the investigation into irregular expenditure, as the investigation was not yet finalized. Hence, it could not be maintained and supported. Refer to the table on the regular expenditure above in A, outlining the progress on irregular expenditure. C, the executing authority has investigated the overpayment of board fees, wrote a letter to the accounting authority to pay the overpayment of directors' fees and approve the board remuneration policy in accordance with National Treasury rates. In addition, Leda Board of Directors has written to Executive Authority on the directors' fee repayment as stipulated in Annex 2. In anticipation of the response from the Executive Authority, there has yet to be any recovery thus far. The Executive Authority acknowledged that there was a delay in the recovery of directors' fee on the matters being addressed. D, the overpayment has yet to be recovered. The board has since written to the Executive Authority to require the overpayment be condoned. The Executive Authority does not support the payment and is instructing the Accounting Authority to make arrangements to settle the overpayment account. Refer to Annex D for the submission of the Executive Authority. The responsible officials compromised board of directors that were present at the time from December 2019 to February 2020, and the list of those officials is enlisted there. F, the executing authority has written to the accounting authority to instruct the board of directors present at the time to repay the overpayment. G, subsequent to the occurrence of this event, there was a board remuneration policy that was developed and implemented. The board remuneration policy stipulates the approved rates of the board of directors fee in line with National Treasury regulation and was approved by the shareholder. The executing authority has directed the accounting authority to repay the overpayment of the directors' fees. This board remuneration policy will ensure that the board is unable to take an unilateral decision on board fees on this in the future. The executive authority furthermore directed the establishment of financial misconduct board to authorize the irregular expenditure. I think that's some of question 3.
Thanks very much. My name is Mulama Rogers. I'm the MEC responsible for development, environment, and tourism. Just to indicate, Chair, that dealing with the entrenched culture of lack of accountability and lack of consequence management was one of the challenges that I think was afflicting the institution. But, for instance, Honorable Kala, when the decision was taken that the board of directors have to pay back money, they wrote to me to say that I must condone the repayment or the elimination of the debt. And then I said that there is no way in which you can condone it because it will be illegal. It will just be an abuse of power. And I don't think we'll be able to account because these are public funds. And if we just allow people to really get money of government illegally so, and at the end of the day when they are supposed to pay, they then give some excuses. And we then said that they must develop a remuneration policy because there was a lack of internal controls in terms of the policy framework or parameters in which they are operating. So as such, I think that's the method that I think is on our radar. We are following it. The same way with the issue of the evergreen contract, whereby you find that an open-ended contract with GMT, whereby it was not let me say, a lifelong term of a contract of some sort. And I think in terms of the applicable prescription, it's not permissible. And we then said that they must piggyback in the national transversal contract about the diesel issue and other parts. Because the problem that also we experienced was that yet we have this evergreen contract, but you have many buses which are there not being maintained. And what is the use? And then we have just since initiated a process to contract or to procure a new contractor over a period of three years. That will be regulated because it will also assist us in terms of these other things that I think we are experiencing. So I think we'll be able to account. We have since instructed the Group CEO to ensure that all the affected board members, they are liable for the payment of this excessive amount that they were getting. And the National Treasury has a baseline on how we have remunerated. And then I think in a nutshell, those were the issues that I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. Let me hand over again to honorable members. Honorable Pala. And Honorable Shoka will follow and Honorable.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair, to give me an opportunity to ask follow-up questions on that question on the irregular expenditure. You know, of course, Chair, that in these public hearings, irregular expenditure is our main question because it's one of the problems we have as government nationally, but also in this province. The Honorable MEC will know part of the reason why we are not one of the best performing provinces in terms of audits is because of huge irregulars expenditures that are lying in various departments and entities in the province, and therefore this thing of irregular expenditure we're following it up. That's why we should ask follow-up questions and better understand what is the situation, Honorable Chair. So my first question is, in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, Section 51, subsection 1B, Roman figure 3 says, the accounting authority of an entity must put in place effective and appropriate measures to prevent irregular expenditure from happening. That's what section 51 says of the PFLA. So my question there is, why did that not happen? Why did the accounting authority not take effective and appropriate measures put up in place to prevent the occurrence of this irregular expenditure that we are talking about here? That's point one. Because that's what the legislation provides for. My question two is that in terms of the same section 51, subsection 1, E Roman figure 3, it says, once irregular expenditure has happened, the accounting authority will take effective and appropriate disciplinary steps against an official or officials that have allowed that irregular to occur. That's what it says in section 51E, that once it has happened now, which means there were no measures in place, policies and systems and so on to prevent it from occurring. Once it has occurred, the accounting authority must take chairperson effective and appropriate disciplinary steps against an official or officials that have allowed that irregular to occur. So my question there is, what steps did the board take, and why it reflects here as we ask the question that no effective and appropriate disciplinary steps were taken against official or officials that have allowed this irregular to occur. And the best example, Honorable Chair, will come to it, is the board, the board that ends board fees at a particular higher level, and when they are told by the Honorable MEC that no, your level is at this one, they don't take steps to ensure they end at that level, they continue to end at the level which is not allowed by both national treasury prescripts and other prescripts. My point 3 is, why has this matter been allowed to occur again? Because it's recurring. This issue of irregular expenditure has been recurring in this entity from as long ago, and specifically some of these items, if you go to Great North Transport, from as long ago as 2014, Magidi. So my question is, why has this matter been allowed to recur? The recurrence occur again and again and again. So that's question 3. Question 4 is, why did it happen that the board earns higher fees than what is allowed? That's question 4. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? My question 5 is, then when it was discovered, why did the board defy the MEC? Why did the board defy the MEC? So, someone looks at me and thinks I'm sucking a thumb, the HOD. The board in its meeting there, which is annexed C, they got a letter from the MEC saying you are earning higher fees, your fees are at this level. This is what they do. They then resolve as follows, Honorable Chair. This is Resolution 134. Resolution 1, Honorable MEC, what do they say? No, we will continue to earn as we earn. That's the first thing. That's what they say there. Resolution, they say the status quo should remain. And in English, it means we will continue continue to earn as we earn. And the MEC is telling them, you are earning higher fees, your fees are higher than what National Treasury provides for, you should be aiming at this level. They look at the letter, they say in Roman figure 3, we note the letter of the MEC. And they then say the status quo should remain on board fees. So that's why I'm not sucking a thumb, Makuba, when I say, why did the board defy the MEC? So I want that, so when you respond, it must be clear, why did the board defy the MEC? That's point one. And related to that, does the board understand who the MEC is? Yes, it's ecosystem generis, it's of the same family. Does the board understand who the MEC is? Because an MEC, and we're not talking about Manama, if you get the point. We're talking about the person who is a member of the Executive Council appointed to look over this portfolio of economic development, environment, and tourism. An MEC is a shareholder, is the one who appoints the board, is the one who actually pays the board in reality. So does the MEC and does the board understand who an MEC is in this context? I want them to talk to that. And question 7 is, why did they defy National Treasury directives? Because it's National Treasury that says a vote at this level should be aiming at this level. Question 8 is, why did they defy provincial treasury? Because I am aware that the head of department and MEC of provincial treasury did write to the board and try to intervene, try to tell them no. And as another MEC who is responsible for finances in the province did get in, not the MEC line who is in land function for economic development, another MEC now who is responsible for provincial treasury and his faithful did intervene at that stage to say the fees you are aiming are not the fees that you should be aiming. And why did they defy another additional MEC? Chairperson, because the MEC now, if they don't respond well, I'm sure you see where it is going. It is going to come to you. Or how did it happen? That they defy you, and not just you, they defy another MEC. MEC for Treasury, who is responsible for the finances of the province, who actually at that time, and we have the record, Treasury can bring that, the MEC did write to the board at that time of provincial treasury to say, what you are aiming, you should not be aiming, you are aiming at the higher levels than you should be aiming. So they didn't justify the MEC for Leda, the board defied another MEC for provincial treasury. So why did they defy another MEC Ramaswamy, second MEC? Tell us that.
Are you done, Honorable Khala?
I'm still on. Question 9 is, and up to now, why has the money not been recovered? Why? Because I noticed that on the list that you provided there, one of the people may have passed on. So why has the money not been recovered? And if indeed one of the people who is on the list has passed on, question 10, how are you going to recover the money from him or his estate? I think you allowed, you set on the scholar until the person passed on. So you can't say I'm asking difficult question. Simple. You should have got the money while the person is alive. You put yourself in a difficulty. Now that he has passed on, you should tell me this committee how you are going to get the money from, if indeed one of those people has passed on, how you are going to get the money from him or his estate. Related to that is, question 11 is, now did you go to Treasury to apply for condonation of this specific irregular expenditure? And if you did, why was it not condoned by provincial treasury? And my question 14 is, what is the consequence management in the department in relation to these irregularities? And that will be the consequence management of the people advising the board on board fees, that's one. That will be the consequence, it's various levels, Chairperson. That will be the consequence management on the board defying 2 MECs, giving it its instructions. That will be consequence management on why the matter has not been acted on up to now. Just go through them slowly, because that consequence is not a small consequence management where you can show us in the file and we're going to go to it. That way you wrote someone a letter in July 2022 for 3 months and the letter has long expired. Leave those things, forget about things like those. That's Sunday school picnic, that's a charade, leave it. Consequence management on people who advised the board to end those board fees. Consequence management on the board defying 2 different MECs who gave it the instructions not to end those fees. And consequence management on a continuation of this irregularity. So those are my 15 questions, Honorable Chair. I hope they have all been taken down and they will be responded to so that I don't have to return to restate them again. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honorable Pala. Honorable Sishoka.
Thanks, Chair. I truly believe that my colleague, Honorable Pala, has covered most of the ground. But I think it suffices, Honorable Chair, to say that you see the answers that are coming from this question in particular of irregular expenditure are totally not satisfactory. From where I'm seated, I don't think the accounting authority has accounted on this question. Because if we're to look at the questions and the answers, they are not complementing each other. When you ask the question, why have you failed to do something, and somebody gives you something else, that question is not answered. Because the first question we want to know as a committee is, why have you failed to take disciplinary action against the officials? That's the question that we have asked on A. But the answers that comes after them is the background of what led to irregular expenditure. So we want to know what led, or what is the source of delay in taking, because we have long passed the background. We also want to know what led to the source of these delays. We want to know from the accounting, what is the delay? Up until that question is answered, then that question will remain there as a question and it will not be removed. I think the accounting authority must just account on what led to that delay. Then we can start talking, because what they've given us here as an answer, especially A, is just a background and it's not satisfactory. And secondly, on the issue of the table that has been provided here, table that talks to regular expenditure per subsidiaries of Leda. Maybe the question that I would want to ask the MEC, maybe I'd like to check with you. When last did you speak or communicate with Provincial Treasury on this condemnation? I mean, on this condoned request? When was the last time? Because seated here, I think we're briefed today that the figure is not what appears to be what it's in here. It's far above that. Maybe the question is, when last have you communicated with Provincial Treasury to get the feedback? Because what we've got here is, one would then, because if the figure that has been presented here is far more than what we have been briefed about, I think it raised questions in terms of your eagerness to resolve these issues. Do you follow up, or you only wait until the schedule for Scopa comes and then you want to? So maybe if you can also check on that and tell us when last did you communicate and what was the response from Treasury? Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, I'm very much worried, man, with the attitude of the board. The attitude. I don't know whether when they respond to this, because there are two things. It's either they are responding for malicious compliance, or in nature they don't just care. There is no accountability at all. These are the two things, but one of them is happening. It's either they just comply for the sake of complying, or they're just showing this committee a middle finger. Because look at the response that all of them, they're not talking to questions. Hence, you have got a long list of questions coming from Honorable Pala, 15 of them. It tells you that we haven't answered this question. And continue asking, continue with this question. I don't know how far we're going to get with it, because they have not answered any question around the questions that have been asked here. I think that is what I would like to register for now, and leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Van der Belt.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and MEC. Chair, just before I start for this period under review, I'd actually like to know, and I didn't apologize for not checking it prior to this meeting today, is what was the annual budget for Leda for this period under review? We can just get an amount. But while we think about that, all above that budget amount, we still come and we ask for condonement, an application for 560, no, more than that, less than that maybe, because some were approved, 500 odd million rand for condonement. And MEC, you must agree, 500 odd million rand in a province like Limpopo, where our people haven't got jobs, where they don't have basic infrastructure, where they are hungry, they don't have electricity and water everywhere. 500 odd million rand of condonement is a shocking shame. There is no other word for that. Because every person working in an SMME is getting and must understand that before you give them a job, the board of directors included, of what it means to work with the people's money. It's not government's money, it's the people's money. And if you take a cent too many, when you actually stolen a cent too many from people. So that brings me, Chairperson, and which I realize, and I've said it earlier to colleagues, I think this department's SMMEs also add to, do we really understand consequence management? Do people in these boards and SMMEs, when they get appointed, actually being taught what the laws and regulations that govern them? Do they understand that? Or is it, I've got the job, now I'm happy? Consequence management was brought in exactly to get rid of people who mismanage. It's not a star on the head because you did well. And Chairperson, to the MEC, condonement is a scandal. Because everybody of us gets a budget. We get grants from Treasury, national, provincial, etc., etc. SMMEs gets a golden opportunity to kickstart. They are not supposed, like Leda from 2017 and before that, Leda, to be on a lifeline of government and the people's money for life. It's a kickstart. You must get rid, you must go into business and walk away. There are other opportunities for you in the field. But we're not doing it. So if you are appointed as a director, and my two colleagues have mentioned the issue about directors' fees, you know what your remuneration would be. Why would you want more if that's your contract, if it's in line with National Treasury guidelines? And then you have the audacity to come and ask for condonement. It cannot, and I'm very happy that the MEC said he said no. Because sir, if you dare say otherwise than no, we'll take you further. There are other remedies to be implemented as well. Scopa, politicians in Scopa, we don't belong to just the chair. We actually care for the people's money, and we are the watchdogs. And for too long, the SME is being treated very, very softly. And it's stopping, and we agreed it's going to stop. Chair, I would like to know what the meaning of the first sentence on page 20 is. It reads, this board remuneration policy will ensure that the board is unable to take a unilateral decision on board fees in the future. What am I meaning? I would have thought that if there are National Treasury guidelines, we will not differ. We'll be able to agree unilaterally. How could you differ on something that's prescribed by law? And then, the consequence management that we read in this file of ours is limited to one thing and one thing only, Chairperson: writing letters. That must be the weakest scandalous implementation of consequence management. Because I write to you, you write to me, I write back, you write back. What you are trying to do is you're trying to buy time and think we'll just write it off. It's not going to happen. Not this time. What more is happening after written letters? What action is taken, and when will we get rid of people? As per the law. Chief, thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable MEC, we cannot just get away with murder. You know, in Limpopo, people are just doing things and then get promoted after doing wrong things. So you still have other members of the board that you still have them. To ordinary members, they will say it's a promotion that Limpopo used to do. So we cannot go on like that. This response, they just respond because you just want to respond and give it to the committee. I think since from 2019, the same response, nothing, no action has been taken. Other members have passed away. So, and then what is going to happen? So we are not going to sit here year after year. We are going to end up taking pension, you know, talking about one thing. Action needs to be taken. MEC, the board need to know that you are an MEC. They must know very well that you are an MEC. So we are not going to discuss this thing going forward. What we want is action. I think the coming Scopa, when you come here, just tell us what action did you take. Because you still have those people that are still working, nothing has happened. So are you saying, what must we say, what must we tell our people outside? That no, this is how Limpopo is. And we all know, we are not even afraid to say it. That in Limpopo we just get away with murder. You do as you wish, and as long as you specialize in doing wrong things, you'll get a promotion. You'll get a promotion. Forgetting that you are representing people out there, they're looking at us. What legacy are we leaving behind to our people? Are we going to say this is the good legacy that we left for our people? That we are promoting people who committed murders, then as if nothing has happened. We cannot go on like this. We are not going to listen to the response, reading big files, you know, year after year, no action has been taken. If it means the police must come in, let it be. Let it be so. Because you cannot go on like this. Something needs to happen so that when we leave, even if people hate you, it's not about you, Honorable MEC. It's not about you. This money is not your money. It is not their money. So people need to do the right thing. Every one of you, the time when they were doing an interview, they told the people that they were interviewing that they promised them that they're going to do the right thing. Is it the right thing that they're doing? Then we just leave things as it is. It can't be like that. We are not going to deal with this thing again. What do we want? We want action and nothing else. That explanation, condonement or whatever, we don't want to. This is a big English that you can always, talk, but we want action, Honorable MEC. We want action. It's just unfortunate for those that they didn't pass on, they're still here, then they can account. They must just account. We cannot just fail. We all want to leave a good legacy behind that. At least we have dealt with 1, 2, 3. Year after year, things are happening, people are complaining. It's like, it's a business as usual. I mean, I think, because we're put sure. So, Honorable MEC, this is our government. It's not anybody's government. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we protect our own government. Don't be afraid to take action. It's not about you, it's about all of us. All of us, we must account for each and every little cent that you're taking. It can't be business as usual. And then, okay, it's fine. No. Honorable MEC, no. And a big no. A big no. We are not going to be apologetic when coming to that. Action needs to be taken. 2019 until today. No. No. Unless if maybe Honorable MEC want us to tell people that we are balero. Please don't fail this government. Do the right thing. You are there as a politician to make sure that things are correct. Over to you, Honorable MEC.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members. I think my name is Munama Rogers. I'm the MEC responsible for economic development and environment and tourism. I think we take note of the concerns that honorable members are raising, more especially on the very same institution that is to provide economic opportunities in the province. An institution or an entity that is fraught with internal control deficiencies that is exposing itself in terms of the governance processes and unfortunately wastage, which I think is a cause of concern. And our understanding is that legislative oversight is a constitutionally mandated function. Your robustness also assists us in refining the system. And I'm raising this because the reason why we subjected this process to a controlment is permissible that in the event that an entity has incurred irregular expenditure, they have to explain themselves because that's the nature. And this is not your own intention or a creation that you are raising these issues. These are the issues that has been isolated by the AG to say that there were no sufficient and appropriate evidence that you can account in terms of how best you have used or utilized the public finance, and what consequence management have you employed to ensure that there is no recurrence of this anomaly. And it was in that context that we said that we need to put some systems. Among others, we have to stop other processes and develop other policies that will guide, because one of the things that was lacking was the policy parameters. How do you just pay boards without a remuneration policy? Those were some of the things. And one of the things that we could not account previously was on the basis that the supply chain of the finance section was not well capacitated, and we have since appointed suitably qualified experts, the accountants, about 8, to reinforce that so that we don't experience some of the challenges. And in some of the boards that I think we have some deficiencies, we were able to have a concrete intervention in terms of ensuring that some of the members resigned because they were no longer participating as they expected. But also the Treasury is more interested about what are you doing about this in terms of justifying why you are doing these things. Because what is obtainable here is that you find that there is this evergreen contract. There is these routes that are not allocated to a subcontractor of a bus. But you are paying that. In paying that, it means that is a regular or a wasteful expenditure. So we have to justify what informed you to deviate from the prescribed conditions which are there to allocate those bus routes to a subcontractor or a service provider who is not allocated to that. And what consequences management in terms of the deviation have you taken? And those were the issues that I think Honorable Shoga we have applied to the Treasury to condone, to say there was an oversight, not oversight in the context of the legislative oversight. Because if you are just saying there is an outcry of a bus service, and you just decide and make a determination to say, without being guided by the procurement policies that you have, or the supply policies and the prescripts that you have, what do you then do? It means that is a free-for-all. Somebody will just say, this one is profitable. Let me take you from this and that. And we have since signing, Honorable Chair, what do you call the social compact with the board, to hold them accountable. And on a quarterly basis now, they know that we are meeting to make a follow-up, to say what are the things that you are doing, how far are you in terms of the Scopa resolution, how far are you with the audit findings that have been raised, so that we are able to deal with those matters. And for now, I think even the directors even went further to say, in every meeting of them, they must declare their interest. Because one of the issues, Honorable Pala, that was derailing the institution was the conflict, the potential conflict of interest. And they are sitting there to make a determination on the things that they have a direct interest. And those matters were not being handled before. And those were the things and the system that I think we are trying to do. And one of the things now, we are saying that until they sign the SOC, we are not going to transfer the money as the department until they account on every cent, on what they are doing and what they've done with the monies that were transferred to them. And those are some of the measures that I think we are trying to take to ensure that we are dealing with the recurrence of, we are keeping the recurrence of the irregular expenditure. And so that when the auditor just come, we say that there are no proper records that can be maintained as an evidence
to say, to justify a particular administrative action. And as such, we are experiencing a number of financial leakages, which I think as the public reps, we have to account what have we done with the public resources that they've been appropriated to us as government. And I think the accounting officer, I think one of the things that I think we said and we told the board of directors was that all these things, they have the group CEO and the management. They cannot just leave things and not advise the board to do things and sit there because the board is not also playing their part. And they also have to take the responsibility. That's what I thought. I told them that they must also come to the party to ensure that they assist us in the interferences, because in a number of occasions, why they have to declare their conflict of interest, there was a lot of interference, but we have since stopped that and give the management an opportunity to deal with all these issues and create some subcommittees that will deal with a number of challenges that are there, because they cannot just work as a collective, as a board, because the board, in terms of the cooperative governance, they are demarcated in number of the responsibility, so that if there are some errors, they were able to hold a particular individual accountable to say, where were you, where was this committee? And for now, I think I'm more confident that the situation will be turned around. And this public entity will not do the same things that they've been doing before. And I'll allow them, if they have some additions, as the accounting authority, to say what are the other intervention measures that they do. I think if you have seen the file that was submitted before, it was not like that. But we said with them to say that they must respond directly to the question that has been asked. And there is a lot of improvement in terms of the responses that they must also give the evidence of all the transactions, all the letters that you have obtained to them to know these are the things. But also we are making a continuous follow-up with Treasury in terms of the condonment, because that's an area that also the Auditor General is looking to, in terms of making sure that he makes some qualification and disqualification in terms of the audit opinion and so forth. I'll then give the interim chair an opportunity to respond on some of the issues that honorable members think that they are more capable in terms of financial distress that we are experiencing as a public entity. And for now, Honorable Pala, they know that when I call them, that thing of undermining other people is no longer the case.
And I also tell them that they can change the file from number 1 to number 2. This is not what we are interested in. We want action. They can change the language or whatever. We get another file that is not like the same as the first one. That's not important. That's not important. What we want is action. Because other groups are coming, they're still going to respond the way they want to respond. Until when? This why this thing, it must come to an end. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. We definitely agree with you that it can be business as usual. We indeed
Honorable Mr. Gadmin.
Oh, my name is Chipian Kitong Gadmin, Deputy Chair of Leda. I was just saying, Chair, that we definitely agree with you that it can be business as usual. We are indeed in the same space that we want to turn around the situation to ensure that compliance to the law is of utmost importance and is taken along. and that we show in different policy instruments that we have taken to ensure that we indeed make sure that we stop the recurrence of irregular expenditure in the organization. Maybe just to take from where the MEC have actually stopped, particularly in terms of the question that Honorable Shaw has raised in terms of the interface that we have continuously with provincial treasury, particularly pertaining to the area around condonement, as the MEC has said, is that if you look at the bulk of the irregular expenditure we incur, it was with GMT. And since we have indicated in the response that we have given at the time, that we have since started to participate in the transversal contract with the National Treasury. We have since actually registered a condonement amount from Provincial Treasury of 576,145,000. So that takes huge bulk of the expenditure and the regular expenditure that we have since registered when we submitted the file in May at the time. So the current difference of the regular expenditure stands at around 141 million. So we think that there is work in progress regarding that particular area. And I know that Honorable Pala will say that he doesn't want to know about the history of this issue regarding the board fees. And I'm sure it was explained before, but I think it's important just to say that this happened precisely because at the time when the board was appointed in 2019, they were appointed on particular fees. And notwithstanding the fact that beyond their appointment, there was instruction from Treasury. The board felt that perhaps they should undertake a benchmarking process for exercise that helps them to understand the environment within which the board of their size and the kind of work that they're undertaking are operating. So, and that background, I think, is what made the board to delay in the implementation of compliance to the Treasury regulation. But as the MEC said, we have since made sure that there is no recurrence of that through the policy instrument that we put in place. And that is why our insistence that that money must be repaid. And we think that we should definitely register progress in terms of ensuring that board members repay the money. I'll stop at that to give to the CEO just to deal with the bulk of the issues that, particularly to indicate the policy instruments that we've put in place to ensure that indeed we are doing as we could to turn around the situation regarding how the entity will in future avoid this irregular expenditure.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. My name is Takani Makuba. I'm the Group CEO of Leda. Let me first say by admitting that indeed in our institution there is still significant room for improvement, to improve in terms of our control environment, to make sure that we address the issues relating to the irregular expenditure, as the honorable member says, indicated that dating back for a number of years now, and we admit that anomaly, and then we are determined to continue to improve on where we are to perfect the way we do business across the group, leader agency itself, as well as its subsidiaries. And then one area that the Honorable MEC also indicated relating to the capacity that is required, that we have now put in place as an organization, largely in the area of supply chain, as well as in the area of finance as a whole, where we have hired additional capacities with about 8 CAs, and we'll continue to focus in the area of finance, particularly now that the moratorium on hiring had since been lifted, and that also helped to alleviate the constraint in the area of accountability, and also the use of internal audit. What we do, honorable members, that by way of example, in the area of supply chain, when there is, for example, completion of the tender process, before we take it to the bid adjudication committee, we have taken a resolution that all that will be subjected to an independent assessment of internal audit to assist as well as bringing in checks and balances in the organization. And by so doing, we hope that this will be able to assist to strengthen where we are from time to time. And in instances, there was a question relating to how often we subject issues to engagement with the provincial treasurer. I must say that we continuously engage with provincial treasury, and in certain instances more as to also get guidance on the things that we do before we are able to execute them, so that it shouldn't be a reaction after the work has been completed. Example in point is the issue of reduction in the area of irregular expenditure. As the chair of the board has highlighted, those increase in the level of condonment. This, what I've just said, will answer the point where if we engage with provincial treasury. But I must admit, insofar as the matter relating to the board fees that has been exceeded, we had not at the time engaged in provincial treasury because of what has been highlighted, where the board has been trying to request for condonment. So as for condominium, first with the executive authority, and that has since been denied or declined, and as such, there was no need to escalate that element, that aspect to the provincial treasury, because in the internal process within the executive authority, it has already been it has been declined. Hence, we did not take that to the provincial treasury. So I think that maybe answers maybe some of those questions. I think the chair would have highlighted them. So perhaps the question, there was a question that was raised in terms of I think the lifeline for Leda continuously having a lifeline, which is the institution that's supposed to be self-sustainable in a way. I think the challenges that we face here, most of them, which you will see is one of the questions relating to inability to recover the shareholders' loans that we have lended to the subsidiaries, because most of the subsidiaries are not yet in a position to be able to sustain themselves to pay dividends. Hence, the issue of lifeline will always come about, and this is also aligned to the reduction in the allocation of capital year in, year out in Leda for it to be able to be standalone as a result. So I think that that aspect is correct in terms of that we should not be an institution that continuously depend on the fixed costs. I just want to clarify a question relating to a section that means board will not take a unilateral decision. What is basically meaning that while there is a national treasury regulation in terms of the payment of board fees, that has also been incorporated in the policy itself, so that when looking at that, you look both from the policy as well as the national treasury regulation. The national treasury regulation may change faster than the change into the policy. So the reason why it was specifically mentioned there was to ensure that there should not be any decision that board, from a policy point of view, take which is contrary to what the provincial, the national treasury is all about. So that is really more from the emphasis point of view in this regard. Hence, that has been put in, emphasized and included as a clause within the policy. Perhaps, Honorable Chairperson, let me pause here and see if maybe there are any other input by through you, Honorable Chairperson, and the Chair of the Board. Honorable, let me see if my colleagues have got anything to add before I hand it back to the Chairperson. I don't know, CFO.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thanks, Chairperson and honorable members. I will only report. My name is Pumran Magidi, the CFO for Leda. I will only respond on the questions that was asked regarding to the budget that was allocated to the Leda group in the financial year ended 2022. The total budget allocations to the group was 516 million. 516,226 million. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Are there any other additions?
For your indulgence, Chair. My name is Milama Rogers. I would humbly request the HOD also
to make some additions in terms of the contingency measures that we have made as the department to ensure that as the shareholder, what is it that we are doing to ensure that we change the situation in other public entities.
Over to you, HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Honorable MEC. My name is Matozera Tumbo. I am the HOD for Ledet. Just to touch on the aspect that the MEC has raised in terms of what we are doing to ensure that Leda is well managed. It's suffice to say that on quarterly basis as a department, we have got the monitoring and evaluation sessions with all our agencies, inclusive of Leda and their subsidiaries, where we look at the issues of performance as well as expenditures. And we also follow on bi-monthly with the executive management meeting, which is convened by the MEC. And we also look at the similar issues that we look at the MNE. But in addition, we have also now included all aspects about Leda's progress in terms of their response to the House resolutions, to Scopa, to the issues of expenditure. We have also improved in terms of our shareholder agreement with Leda and all other agencies, and we now make sure that the shareholder agreements are signed before the commence of the financial year. But we have also made sure that it doesn't just become a general shareholder agreement. We also put in specific instructions in terms of certain expenditure in areas which we think that Leda is not taking care of in terms of their mandate. Issues such as the support for enterprise development and entrepreneurship in terms of set aside for SMME and cooperatives. And we also make sure that where there are projects of Leda that has not been implemented from previous financial years, inclusive of those that the portfolio committee is aware of in terms of the timeline, such as the one-stop shop, the operationalization of Limpopo and Mashashane hatcheries. We make sure that on weekly basis, Leda reports on those so that we can be able to adhere to the timelines. But from time to time, the MEC also had board sessions with all the agencies, including the subsidiaries, so that he can be able to make sure that you understand the progress that's being made, and where there are areas of difficulty, whether service delivered or otherwise, we make sure that we resolve that. So those are some of the additional measures that we have put into place. In terms of the remuneration policies, as a result of this mistake that was made in the period of December 2019 to February 2020, we have moved on with the provincial treasury and assisted the board to develop the remuneration policy. But provincial treasury itself is doing a transversal remuneration policy that will be applicable to all entities of the state, and that will be approved at EXCO level, so that whatever individual remuneration policies that are done by entities is totally incongruent of that is done at transversal level. I should stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable MEC. Yeah, I'm still coming back to you. Thank you, Honorable MEC, for your response. Going forward, when the honorable members are asking questions, can you leave them to respond first, then you come later, because we don't want them always to refer to what we already have said. Yeah. So, thank you very much. Honorable Pala, Honorable Shoka, Honorable Marule, Van der Waals, do you raise your hand? Honorable Van der Waals, yes. Okay.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair. Maybe it is early And maybe it's also because they appeared a long time ago, they've forgotten. When you come to this committee, this one called the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and you hear his name, you come here because you are coming to answer questions. You don't talk in generalities of any information you want to give us. Here we don't want any information. If there's a lot of information you have about how you work and all that, you can give that to the portfolio committee, the legislature, or other people, or Radio Trovela, or somewhere. Here we ask you questions, you answer the questions. Then we make progress. And I'm saying that because I asked questions they didn't answer, Chair. And I'm going to restate the questions you will hear when I repeat the questions that you didn't hear the answers. Question 1, why didn't the leader have measures in place to prevent irregular expenditure? Question 2, why didn't they take effective and appropriate disciplinary steps as required by Section 51E of the PFMA against officials that are responsible for irregular expenditure? Question 3, why was this matter allowed to occur again? Because it's recurring, as we have said. You remember those questions? And question 4, why did they defy the MECs? I think here is in black and white. Mokoma Kethi, the group company secretary in 2019, signed a resolution where the MEC gives them a letter and says, you are supposed, your salaries, the monies you are earning are too high. You are going to earn monies at this level. They say, we note the letter of the MEC. However, the status quo will remain. That's what I'm asking. They don't answer that. They took a long time. I'm listening to them. You know, Chairperson, I'm one of the most patient members. I listen the whole day usually. Some departments I listen. There's a fellow at the back there, is he called Scopa. He knows that I listen up to 4 o'clock. The other day, he left this place with MEC Mukoni at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because I'm patient, I listen up to 4 o'clock in the morning even. That's why I listen. But here, you have come to answer questions we ask you. Not the general information that you can write to Twelopele Ramasobana. Not here. Here you answer the questions we ask you. So those are my questions, and there are many you have asked, you have not responded to. I want them to be responded to, because I'm going to repeat them until you respond to them, if you get the logic right. All departments that come here, we ask them questions, they respond to them. So I won't give you a special offering for whatever reason. That we ask you questions and you don't answer them. So I won't restate all of them. But you know all the questions, that 15 of them, I want answers to those questions, Honorable Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honorable Scopa.
Yeah, thanks. I think reiterating what Honorable Pala said, I don't think we're going to, well, maybe it's because we're warming up Honorable Pala.
Maybe it's because of the weather.
Yeah. Because it seems as if Honorable MEC, we have been warm up, and answers are not coming through. And it worries us because it means we're going to stay here for a longer time. And that is not the intention. The intention is to ask questions and get answers to those questions. We have asked questions, and I hope that we are going to respond and commitment to this committee. The simple question we're asking, why are you not holding responsible those officials that were overpaid, the special board of directors? Why are we not doing that? I expected you to commit Honorable MEC and the interim chair of the leader group to say by this date we would have made sure that we have recovered this money from the people that are listed on this group, and failure to which will give reasons why you failed. I think that is what is expected. I asked a simple question. When last did you communicate with provincial treasury regarding this matter? The answer I'm getting is that we're continuously meeting with them, continuously. And I see, Chair, people that are just playing with English here just to buy time. Unfortunately enough, we have got enough time. If they want to buy time, we do have enough time. We'll keep on asking the same question until they answer the question. I'm deliberately asking this question, MEC, because I said we've been briefed. In terms of this condemnation figures, there's a great improvement. And that is why I was asking you. Because if you look at the figures that the closing balance, therefore, it was 568 million. But we can safely say that from the brief that we get, it's less than 68 million. Now there are improvement. And that is why I'm saying, you know, it's so embarrassing that we have information that is yours, that you're supposed to report to us and it's not coming. That's why I'm checking with you. How often do you communicate with Treasury? And that information is not coming. If colleagues are interested in telling us English, we're fine with English, we can listen to English. But the question will remain. We're going to ask similar questions until answers are coming through. I think that was my submission, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Mamla.
Well, I'm just going to repeat the same thing, Chair.
Thank you.
Questions have been asked but not being responded to. And it's very sad because these people are very experienced in whatever they're doing. In the department, I'm assuming they know what they're doing. So if I'm going to be sitting asking questions that I never get answered, I have a problem. But I need to answer to the legislature. That's all I need to do there. So when people are sitting here, I was going to ask a question, but it could be very rude. I don't want to ask a question, you know, because I'll be insulting your intelligence, and I don't want to do that. So that's all I wanted to say about it, because it's sort of frustrating asking questions and you never get responded to.
Thank you, Honorable Vanderbilt.
I'd just like to make a comment before I state something. And I think the fact of the matter is there might be, I don't know, in all these boards or whatever, there might be 1,000 people that might be unhappy with the MEC and government takes action against these SMMEs. But there will be millions out there that will appreciate that we do the right thing for their sake and for the money in the fiscus. But I want to say something to the CFO. So you confirm that your budget allocated for 21-22 was 516 million rand. Now I might not be a CFO, but if your budget allocation was 516 million, plus the condonement, because what you've now actually done, if it's granted, it actually doubles your budget. Because you only had 500 million, now you get another 500 million back on condonement, you've got $1 billion. That's actually crooked. I could use another word, but I'm in Parliament sitting now. Really, you know, people out there aren't stupid. There are many CAs and ordinary learners who get awards for maths every year at the matric evening. Don't underestimate politicians or the people of this province, Chairperson. And Chair, I have to add, it seems like no steps but writing letters.
That's exactly what I said, Honorable Vanderbilt. Honorable MEC, I'm not sure if you have written all the questions from honorable members. Maybe before you respond, if ever you've missed something, maybe if you can just go back to honorable members, ask those questions so that you need to respond as I said.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chairman of the members. My name is Audit, and that is responsible for Leda. I think the question that have been asked are straightforward, and they are directed to the accounting authority. We're just restating some interventions measures that we said to have a closer monitoring of what the entities that is doing. I think even the committee, I think, is acknowledging. But I think I can answer a question like, why are they defying me as the authority? Because that's what I told them when I arrived. To say you can't keep on writing us letters.
That is why we said, Honorable MEC, wait for them to respond.
That's why now I'm saying they must respond. Because I can't respond why they are defying me. Maybe they have the reason.
Exactly.
But I said that if they wanted to pick up a fight, they must start. On the issue of the recovery of the money, more especially on the board, because that one is direct, is that I've given them 12 months to ensure that they get that money back to where the overpayment. And we have since moved because we have since developed a remuneration policy, because those were some of the excuses that they were giving. But I think they will respond. But if you look at that letter, Honorable Phala, that they have been written by them, and the letter that I've written, where they say that I must condone the overpayment, I said that's not how we're going to operate, unless they wanted to wage a war and they have a battle plan. And that's what I think I told them. But that this sugar on the issue, I think we did not want to put some references of writing letters. On a continuous basis, we are meeting in the Treasury to say that how far are you with the condonement? And this is one of the matters that I think we are dealing with. And we are making a serious, since then, we are making a serious progress. And thanks for that. And I'll then allow the chairperson, because it goes directly to the board. Why are they not implementing, executing, and prosecuting some of the directives that are straightforward from the Auditor General, like the issues that they must enhance the capacity of the supply chain management and the finance. Let him respond with your question.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Maybe with your advice, Chipiane Tito Ngarimen, the Deputy Chair of Leda. With your advice, Chair, maybe we have missed some of the questions that particularly Honorable Phala had raised. With your indulgence, maybe if you just reinstate them so that when we respond, it's adequate. We've noted some, but I'm not sure if they are all recorded. Okay. As I said before, Honorable Sishoka, the issue around our interface with Treasury is continuous in the sense that we have recorded and registered the condonement that I've referred to of 560 million, with a difference of 141 million. So that shows the continuous interface that we actually undertake with provincial treasury. I think the MEC have dealt with the issue around the recovery period of the overpayment. Honestly, Honorable Phala, I don't think there was a defiance note that the board wanted to undertake because our relationship with the MEC is based on the shareholders agreement that we sign every year. So it will be definitely a misnomer
that the intention was to defy. It will not arise from where I'm sitting that the board can defy an executing authority. So if that was the what is the undertone in that letter, I think it was wrong for such a decision to be undertaken. And for that, obviously, we profusely apologize to both this House and to the MEC. That's where I'll cut the matter, because it cannot happen that MEC get defied by an institution that report to.
Can you be specific and respond exactly to what honorable members have asked? Just be straightforward.
Yeah.
Please.
So, that, what I'm saying is that we cannot defy the MEC.
You did defy the MEC. So when you say you cannot, you have defied the MECs. So you say you cannot, but it shows that you have defied the MEC. So what we want is to respond. It has happened.
Yes, that's why I'm
just
saying
respond
that
exactly to the output. Just respond straight.
Yes, that's why I say we profusely apologize.
Proper English is to, I would like to apologize to the MEC for what's been uttered on the letter. That's normally what you need to say.
I'm begging to hear you, Honorable Mamule, Tudong Government, the Deputy Chairperson.
Every time when you respond, you start with a name, then you respond to what you say. Okay, you can continue.
Yes, I think I'm
because when you prolong your response, that's where you are frustrating yourself. If you can just go straight to what they've asked, then you won't have issues. But if you are going to prolong and put other things, so there are even more questions on that. And just be specific, just respond to exactly what they've said. And avoid other things, just respond to the question. Because when you are trying to justify this and that, no. Straight.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I said in the previous response, I said we profusely apologize for what has happened. And as you said, it had happened, and will not repeat that because there are policy statements regarding that matter. With your permission, give the CEO to respond to the rest of it.
My name is Takani Makuba, the Group CEO of Leda. Honorable members, Honorable Chair, I wanted to suggest that because I jotted down the question specifically line by line, and then if it's allowed, because there's questions, some of them, as you have indicated, need to be responded by the accounting authority, I can read them by one, and then my chairperson can respond if that is allowed, to make it easier for responding to specific questions. Okay, the first question, Chair, was why did the accounting authority not place appropriate measures in place for Leda? If I can respond to this question, Chair, we have a place improve the control environment in Leda in the area of supply chain, in terms of review of the supply chain policy, as well as making sure we have got appropriate personnel in supply chain, permanent employees that have been put in place in supply chain, and we have also capacitated furthermore the finance department as a whole by appointing about 8 chartered accountants and many others in the organization. So yes, there was no appropriate measures that are adequate enough. We have since put those measures that I've just mentioned to improve. So we agree that yes, there were no appropriate or adequate measures in place. Now these measures have now been put in place. And then the other question, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Accounting Authority, what appropriate action that has been, why the Accounting Authority has allowed the irregular expenditure to occur? That is the question as number 2 as I understood it. The Accounting Authority accept, yes, indeed, there has been irregular expenditure that have been taking place because of lack of sufficient control environment, and that has already been is already taking place. Why no appropriate and effective steps taken? The steps that have been taken, some of it might not have been sufficiently addressed, where we have given warning letters to the respective officials that were involved in, that resulted in the irregular expenditure. And then the control environment at the time were not effective enough. However, consequence management in respect to the letters of warning have been given and signed for in 2022. Why has this matter been allowed to recur again with reference to some of the issues since 2014? I think that was the reference that has been made in terms of the irregular expenditure. As has been indicated earlier, some of the area concern the evergreen contracts, particularly in the Great North Transport in respect to diesel and as well as to the routes that has been allowed to continue for many years, of which we regret for that having taken place. It has since been resolved through condonation, to an extent that within the Great North Transport, a condonation in the amount of 502,061,643.10 has since been put in place, which resulted in an improvement in the balance of irregular expenditure. Why did it happen that the board earns higher fees than it allowed? As previously indicated, the board at the time was trying to argue on moving to look at the benchmarking exercise, but that still, that benchmarking exercise was not incongruent with the Treasury regulation. The next question, number 5, the chairman has answered it. The same applies to question 6. I will repeat them for the purpose of record that they have been answered. When it was discovered, why did the board defy the MEC? wherein the board at the time wanted the status quo to remain. Does the board understand who is the MEC? That was question number 6, and I think the chair of the board attempted to respond to that question. Why did they defy National Treasury directives? The chairperson of the board has profusely apologized for defying the regulation, both at National Treasury as well as the question number 8 that relates to the provincial treasury, which root cause at the time would have been them attempting to negotiate themselves out of that principle that they apply at the time following the benchmark exercise that they've done. Why money not recovered up to now? That question has been responded by the Honorable MEC. How are we going to recover from the estate of the deceased who has since passed? We have also written to the estate of the deceased board member, and then the family has undertaken that they will repay the amount that is outstanding. That is a response that I've received, particularly to this case, by yesterday from our company secretary. Did you go to Treasury to apply for this specific irregular expenditure? No, we did not go to Treasury to apply for this irregular expenditure. What is the consequences management in the department of the people advising management, and consequence management on people advising the board, as well as consequence management on board not paying or allowing the consequence management to have taken place? If I can respond in behalf of management, this matter in terms of the advice has always been in most of the agenda for the board, discussing and advising the board for the repayment of the money. And as was indicated previously, the board sought to, in terms of resolution, sought to write to the Honorable MEC to request for condonment. So the advice has been in the table in this regard. However, we're waiting for that particular outcome. Concernment on the board to paying or allowed, that question has been responded to. Those that were the question that has been raised by the Honorable Pala in terms of responding to the specific questions. However, maybe before I proceed, the Honorable Chairperson and all members, my team were also taking notes on some of the questions. If I did not respond properly, they can also add to this. I will first request our interim COO, Mr. Mokobane, to add if I have omitted some of the specific questions before we get into other questions that have been raised specifically. With your indulgence, Honorable Chairperson.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is interim CEO. For now, I'm satisfied. I don't have anything to add at this stage.
Okay. My name is Takani Makuba, the GCO of Leda, my CFO, Mr. Magidi, also want to respond to one of the questions that I might have omitted. Mr. Magidi.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Pumlani Magidi, CFO for Leda. I will only respond to the follow-up question on the issue of the budget that I have raised. To respond to the question that was asked is the total irregular expenditure for the group, the 735 million, is a cumulative amount since 2014-15 to date. The condonment amount is not necessarily aligned to the budget that was allocated in the financial year 2021-22. I just wanted to respond to that one thing.
Honorable MEC, maybe through you, if we can check that if you have an evidence of the letter that was written to the deceased estate. If we have that evidence, maybe you can provide it to us. And then also about we have other board members that are currently employed by other agencies, that at least if you can just try to brief us and tell us exactly what, because we have other board members that are still here and they've been employed by other agencies. Then how are we going to take it?
The additional questions so that they respond to everything, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Pana.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chair. Because already you are doing follow-ups, we thought we should do the additional follow-ups so that in the interest of time, when they come in, they respond to everything. I think Mr. Makua was, if you noticed, Honorable Chair, doing the work of the board. It is the job of the board chairperson to write all questions when he comes here. He must come with a pen and the writing pad if he doesn't know. Write all questions and answer all questions. If you get the point, Chair. Because Makua was doing the work of the board, I didn't want to interject. You know, I'm a very peaceful person. The church I belong to as a senior member of a church, one of the big churches with a badge in the province. So that's not your job, Makua. You add on the board. The board is the one that answers. That's why the law calls the board accounting authority. It's not just English. It's because it is the authority that accounts to the provincial parliament. It's not just for purposes of English. The law doesn't call the board the board. It's like HOD Ratumbu. It's called HOD in the department. But when he comes here, he's called accounting officer. Because he's the officer who accounts in terms of the law, section 36. So even here, the person who accounts, and he's a person, is the board. That legal person called the board. It may be composed of 10 people, but this one is a person, legal entity called the board. You add Makua. If you get that in your mind, that will help you. So let's go through them. My three first questions were not answered. So let's go through them. So the first question says, why did the board not put in place effective and appropriate measures to prevent irregular expenditure from happening? So you just respond to it nice, prevent it in the first place from happening. The second question is, in E, 51E, once irregular expenditure has happened, the accounting authority of an entity must take effective and appropriate, not just steps, Makuba, disciplinary steps against an official or officials that have allowed that irregular to occur. So the question is, because this irregular has happened, is the action that we have taken effective and appropriate disciplinary steps as defined by Section 51E, Roman figure 2 of the Public Finance Management Act? So tell us, when you write a warning letter for 3 months, when you write a warning letter for 3 months, is that what the PFMA calls effective and appropriate disciplinary steps? Honorable MEC, when you write a warning letter to a person that in 3 months it gets out of the file, and actually also tell us, question 4, where did you get the letters now in this year? Because the letters expired in September. Agree, we issued the letters in July. In August, September, October, the letters are out of the file. Where did you get them? Others binning again. Someone went to the bin. Who went to the bin? Where did you get the letters? It looks like a joke. It's not. Where did you get the letters? You are not supposed to be having the letters. The letters were for 3 months. July, August, September. By October, they were in the bin at Dalmata. Where did you get them to show us this year? And I'm demonstrating to you, it's not effective and appropriate disciplinary steps as defined by Section 51E, Roman figure 3 of the PFMA. That says once irregular expenditure has happened, the accounting authority, which is a board, must take effective and appropriate disciplinary steps. So tell us, this question 4, it's new one. Where did you get the letters? Did you send someone to the bin? Those things are in the bin. Where did you get them? Because they are not there. They are destroyed in 3 months. So tell us that. Let's go to my last point, Chair, and I'm stating it so that the chairperson of the board doesn't shilly or digital. This meeting is called the Standing Committee of Public Accounts. If you are coming for the first time, it's something else. Let's go through it slowly. Here, it's not a meeting for apologies. If it was a meeting for apologies, we would not have organized lunch and afternoon tea. We would have got tea in the morning and left. Of the north. So, this is not a meeting. You could have said question 1, apology, Chair. We apologize for what happened. The chair says question 2. We read it. Apology. We apologize for what happened. Question 3. Apology. We apologize for the, and then we reach the last question and we leave. This is not a meeting for apologies. This is a meeting for accounting on what happened in your books after the year ended and the Auditor General came to audit your books. So no, leave apologies, forget about them for today. You can apologize to the MEC in your board meetings, there is your things. You can apologize as profusely as you like. Not here. Here, let's go through it slowly. The board meets in 2019, receives a letter from the MEC. The MEC says, the monies you are earning are higher than you should be earning. And the board says, let's go through it. We note the letter of the MEC, full stop. The next sentence they say, however, the status quo should remain. We want an explanation why the board in a meeting that it held defied the Honorable MEC for Economic Development. So the question is why? Not an apology. No matter how profusely the apology could be. Forget about the profusely-ness of the apology. Tell us about why did the board in its meeting decide to defy an honorable member of Executive Council who in terms of Leda Act actually is the one who determines. If you read Leda Act section 1 subsection 1 to 4, it says the MEC must determine the remuneration and allowances payable to members of in accordance with National Treasury guidelines. In black and white, Chairperson. The MEC is the one who determines what the board must be paid, remuneration and allowances in terms of National Treasury guidelines. The law says that. But they see it. They defy not just the MEC. What else do they defy? They defy the law, the Leda Act. This is another defying. So I don't know, maybe the chairperson will also apologize for profusely for defying the law. So tell us why you defied the law. This is another question 6. Why did you defy the Leda Act that in this case now says in section 1 that the MEC for Leda must determine the remuneration and allowances payable to a member in accordance with the National Treasury guidelines. It's in black and white. So they didn't just defy the MEC. The board defied a law, a provincial legislation. So the board must tell us why they defied the law. Final question. Why did they defy a provincial treasury? I am stating that because I know the chairperson of the portfolio committee on provincial treasury for a long time. And I was once an MEC for provincial treasury. I actually know that the MEC for provincial treasury and the HOD did write to the board. So Lukopong will give you the record. They did write to the board to inform the board of the actual remuneration that the board should be receiving. So you didn't justify the MEC, you have apologized if you thought your apologies had ended. They have started. You defied the law that established Leda. You have defied another MEC, which is the MEC for provincial treasury. So go through them slowly. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Scopa.
Sure. No, but mine is quicker. I think I just want to check. I think now we're getting it correctly now. I just want to check with the MEC. You said you have given them 12 months. May you please share with us the time frame, 12 months from today, or it has been something that you have communicated before. If we can get that time frame, I think it will assist us. But also thanks to Honorable Pala because Honorable Chair, we seems to be going to start in this problem of irregular expenditure with the kind of attitude we are getting from the leadership. Because I could safely say that the attitude and the response that we are getting, it only points to one direction, which is a leadership dilemma in this entity. There's a serious problem of leadership. If we have got leaders that would come to a meeting like this and render an apology without being accounting, it's a sign that we're dealing with people that they really do not know what is that they're supposed to do. And Honorable MEC, I don't know what you're going to do with this kind of leadership wherein they are unable to account and the account comes in the form of apologies. And we're not even accounting, instead we delegate, like the delegated, you delegate what has been delegated to you. It's a problem, MEC. Maybe you need to tell us what is it that we are going to do, because there is a serious problem of leadership dilemma in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we still in other hands? Okay, thank you very much. Let me hand over to Honorable MEC.
Okay, no, thanks very much, Honorable Chair of the session, honorable members. My name is Monana Rogers, I'm the MEC responsible for the state. Like I said to the Chair, these questions are straightforward. Straightforward as they are, they just need simple responses. And that has been our attitude. Because there is nothing to speed to give the responses, because this is not the Honorable Palace question. They've been isolated by the age. And that's what in our meetings with the court I told them. That the problem that we have is that we want to justify that we fail to justify in our management license to the AG, because these are the questions that have been raised by the AG highlighting these divisions. And then for now I think we're ready. Chair, we have please we have asked a question, and unfortunately you are
She has appointed me as chair. Wait for that,
personally asked the question. Yeah, to say that the structure, what I think Honorable Pala is reading out, as explicitly outlined in the PFMA, what is an accounting officer, what is accounting authority. In our meetings with the board, I told them, Honorable Pala, that come this audit finding this financial year is clearly stipulated on the rules of the accounting authority and the accounting officers. The problem of us using other people as scapegoat, if there is a problem in the, if the leader is achieved, obviously the group CEO and the accounting officer will be praising themselves. But when there are problems, they then just isolate the junior official. And I said that must stop. Because the accounting officers is saying that, or the accounting authority, that they must exercise what we call fiduciary responsibility. So even when there are challenges where they successfully failed to take appropriate and effective steps to prevent certain anomalies, they must be held accountable as the accounting authority or accounting officers. So there is a problem, and one thing that I wanted to come to your question, that I said they have to streamline the seamless processes of accountability in terms of the accountability ecosystem. In Leader Act, those who are in the mother board, they also, I don't know how it was structured. And we said when we are going to appoint the new board, we must then have a delineation or demarcation of responsibilities. You have leader as a mother board, and then you have subsidiaries of leader. Those who are sitting in the leader, they are also the chairpersons of the subsidiaries, meaning that they are accounting to themselves. You will reckon that in Gauteng, my counterpart dissolved the leader board. I'm just a leader board in the context of the board signatories. And then after that, they still remain. And you can't go there because you are not the direct shareholder. Yeah. And the sooner we review that act, the better. Because it will assist us in terms of the accountability. Because whatever is happening in the subsidiaries, when they arrive there, all of them, they have their own issues in their own subsidiaries. And they have to hold each other accountable. Instead of subsidiaries accounting to the holding company. That is not the case. And there are those deficiencies in terms of the law, which I think they said we are going to deal with it. On the 5th of July, in our executive management meeting, Honorable Scopa, I said they must incorporate that thing of ensuring that we recoup the money must start. That's where the issue of the 12 months must begin. I think I've addressed that issue. These other issues, I think.
Honorable Mdana will share it.
I've got all the powers of the chairperson.
Yeah, but also, Honorable Pala, you have raised a very important issue. On the issue of which I think I'll respond because they are the ones who have issued the warning letters. In fact, according to the Labor Relations Act or the Basic Condition of Employment Act, is 6 months in the file. But it's not an issue. But the issue is the magnitude of the offense. The reason why we need to have a sanction is that there must not be recurrence or repetition of that. It must serve as a deterrence. But if you, for any other offense that you commit, you just get a warning letter. One size fits all. It doesn't serve the purpose why we need to have disciplinary cases. Because you know that whatever you do, whether it's irregular, the magnitude part of it, or the propensity part of it, you know that I'm going to get a written letter, and in 6 months, it will have to be expunged from the file, and now you are an innocent human being. So the accounting authority, as a juristic person or a legal person, has to take those responsibilities, and that's what I told them, that going forward, if they mete out the punishment, it must be commensurate to the offense that has been committed. And that is the commitment I think that we are making.
Okay. I think you are still on the floor. If you are still to respond to the questions raised by Honorable Pala, you were just giving an overview on the questions.
Yeah, I think I'll then hand over to the chairperson, but also just to know that majority of these issues, Honorable Pala and colleagues, they are historical matters that has been happening. And the issue of the effective and appropriate state, I fully agree that justice was not being done. There was a lot of travesty of justice in terms of the determination on the type of the responsibility that they have to exercise. And with that, I think I will not apologize for that, because that's the thing that in terms of the law they were supposed to do, but they did not fail. They successfully failed to exercise the powers vested in them. And I will then get the answer why they regulate expenditure from the accounting officer, why they did allow the recurrence, why this thing is not going to stop recurring like you have stated, and the issue why they divided the MEC. Fortunately, it wasn't me who went there with that letter. Otherwise, I should have dissolved them. But it was a cold letter. So maybe they have an understanding with that executive authority that they will exchange love letters. And I can assure that in my case, we can exchange letters. If you write me a letter, then write you a letter of disbandment or dissolution. Because that's not how we need to work. Because the directive and the determination of their remuneration is precisely on the executive authority and nowhere else.
Including the decision to seek for benchmarking is not there as it should be within the MEC.
Thank you, Dr. Mantaka.
Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Carmen Tito, Deputy Chairperson of Leda. Why did the Accounting Authority not provide measures to prevent irregular expenditure. And obviously this thing is expressed in terms of the fact that there were deficiencies in the system. And as such, that tells you that that is why the irregular expenditure occurred. So, and hence, since then, we have made policy instruments, we have put policy instrument measures into the system. That is one. Two is the recruitment drive that we said we have actually put in place in terms of ensuring that we get qualified people in positions, particularly in the supply chain processes. So from where we're sitting, we think we are a better place moving forward. So we did acknowledge the fact that there were system-led and deficiencies, hence we had those irregular expenditure. Okay. Two, why were no effective measures that were put in place, effective measures, appropriate for disciplinary action. You have since said that, and you asked whether those letters are appropriate enough to deal with the kind of matter that the irregularity which has occurred. And from where I'm sitting, I said that it is not appropriate enough. We should improve our system to ensure that the steps that we take, they are equal to the fault that the people have actually undertaken. I think the issue around the letters in the files and where did we get them? The reality is that obviously because we have a record management system where we keep our records as an institution, we should always at all material time have those records in our records. Why did we defy the law and why did we defy the provincial treasury? As I've said before, I think we were on the road for not complying with first the law and also the instruction notes from the provincial treasury. That's where we are. My colleague Chigan want to make additions.
Okay, thank you very much. As I hand over to the chairperson, I think you are allowed to proceed. Over to you, chairperson.
Thank you, chairperson. My name is Chigan Chikane. I'm not the board members. I just wanted to clarify one thing.
Let's get the microphone to Mr. Chigan there. There's a mobile one.
Chairperson, I'm trying to explain the issue of the payment made to directors and the subsequent decision of the MEC to say there must be a change in remuneration. My understanding is that prior to 2019, the income of directors was far more than that. So it's not as if they were informed from the beginning that this is the amount you're going to receive and they refused. They used the previous amount that was earned by directors. When this change came, they were already directors. So the change happened while they were earning higher. I think I just want to clarify that point, that there is somewhere sympathy that we request to say it's not because of there was illegality on their part, there was transition that had to happen. I just want to just make that point. It's not a defiance as such. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
My name is Tabalan Mube. I just want to add as a director at Leda as well. We need to show that there was never an intention to defy. It might have looked like there was a defy of MEC. What happened is there was a policy when this new board was appointed, and the letters of appointment, they referred to the old policy. So in the middle, maybe in 3 months, then there was this transition that had to happen. During the transition, the understanding that directors had was that the chairperson of the Leda board then, Mr. Magwana, was in consultation with the executive authority to try and resolve this matter. At that time, the consultation might have taken too long. Then when the chairperson came back, we were told that the benchmarking must happen because it was going to affect the directors' fees to go drastically low from the letters they had. So there was a benchmarking that was done. The understanding of the directors has always been that the executive authority is listening and is trying to work together to resolve this matter. So that's why the letter maybe is indicated that while this consultation and this benchmarking is happening, the status quo will remain, because at that point the directors had letters that appointed them. They didn't appoint themselves, but their remuneration was according to the old policy. So I think that is where the point is. And I think the intention to defy was never there. It was maybe the long consultations and the issues of benchmarking that took longer than it shouldn't have. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to respond also? Okay. Let me go back to Honorable, or do you still want to respond, MEC?
Well, thanks very much, Mama Rogers and the MEC. Thanks for that. Maybe that Tavelang has responded. Honorable Pala is more happy.
Let's see what Pala is saying.
Okay. Honorable Pala.
Thanks very much, my Honorable Chairperson. Let's go through it slowly, and I think we should round it off. Let's start at the beginning. My 3 questions have not been responded to adequately. Honorable Mutaka can report to you. Our question 1. Why? Because the questions we ask, I'm helping Garime because I think Garime may be appearing here for the very first time, probably, maybe. He doesn't understand. Here we answer questions in the past tense. As the thing happened then, we don't answer in present continuous or what you did thereafter. If you have additional information of what you did thereafter, you provide to the portfolio committee, or you can call a press conference or go to a radio station. Here we're interested in when the AG came then, why was the situation like that at that time? That should be the understanding. So let's go through them, Chair. I want to restate them. Honorable Mutaka will tell you the one respond them. Here are the questions. 1. Why did Leda at that time not have effective and appropriate measures in place to prevent irregular expenditure from happening as required by section 51B of the Roman figure 3 of the Public Finance Management Act. That's one. 2 is why were there no effective and appropriate disciplinary steps taken against officials that have allowed irregular expenditure to happen as required by section 51 of the Public Finance Management Act in E Roman figure 3. And I want them to tell us whether, question 3, whether they think the verbal warnings, verbal warnings that were for 3 months in the file that they gave to even whether there are 100 officials, whether those verbal warnings were effective and appropriate disciplinary steps taken against officials that have allowed irregular expenditure to occur as required by section 51 E Roman figure 3 of the Public Finance Management Act. And understand the English, whether they were effective and appropriate disciplinary steps taken against an official or officials that have allowed irregular expenditure to occur. So they have not answered those questions, Honorable Chair. And I'm restating them for the last time. I won't have another energy to restate them again. If I had a battery, probably I would, but I do not. So those are the questions that many has not responded to in the team. On the issue of, which is key now, on defiance, we go through it slowly. The law says the MEC for Economic Development, Environment and Tourism in the Limpopo province is the one who must determine the remuneration and allowances payable to a member in accordance with National Treasury guidelines. So the MEC comes to them and shows them where National Treasury guidelines say, as a board of an entity at this level, you should be aiming at this level. And defiant, look what they say. We note the letter of the MEC. Look, the second sentence they say. However, the status quo of what we are aiming should remain. That's defiance. And it's defiance of the MEC for Economic Development, it's defiance of the Leda Act, and it's defiance of the MEC for Provincial Treasury, who actually is the one who brought this to the attention of the MEC for Economic Development. So what they are saying, and I saw Chigani and Lube there coming, I don't know both of them what they were trying to say, because I didn't see, I don't know what they were saying themselves, both of them, trying to say, no, there was no defiance, because we were aiming a certain salary before, which was determined. Once the MEC comes to a table and says, there is a National Treasury guidelines that says what you are aiming is faulty, you, from now on, you will be aiming this, you comply. Agree, Chairperson? Once you write you decide in a meeting and say, we note what the MEC is saying, however, I think that's what is it in English. Agree with defense. Unless Nube and Chicano, because they are saying names, maybe they don't understand Spain. The other government that side may help them. Come. But because it's defiance. There is no better way. That's why the government here apologize in a wrong meeting, which apology was thrown out of the window because this is not an apologist meeting. This is a meeting for accounting. He can apologize to the MEC in a meeting where the board is meeting the MEC. Here we don't apologize. We account on what has happened. So it's in black and white. Defiance by the board. They even have shamelessly write it down in a board resolution that the board secretary writes down. So I don't know what is defiance, what is not defiance. Because on occasion, Chairperson, you may commit an offense without knowing that. Like you may drive a car faster in a road that is 60 kilometers thinking that it allows for 120 until you are stopped by some people in uniform. And you tell them, oh no, I thought here it is 60, it is 120, and they tell you, oh no, didn't you see? There is a board behind that tree that says 60. Yeah, that happens often. So even in this case, they may have to, but it's defiant regardless. Whether they are aware of it or not is totally not material. They have defied 3 bodies. They have defied the MEC for Economic Development, who wrote the letter in black and white for them, which letter they put aside. Everybody else. But we note the letter by their side. However, as a board, we will continue to earn what we earn. Look at that defiance. They defy the law. The law says the ABC is the one who will determine what you will earn. I don't know where Lume and Chikane are lost. The law says the MEC is the one who will tell you what you earn. The MEC has come to them with a letter telling them what they earn. They say, no, put the letter aside. We saw the letter of the MEC. However, we will continue to earn what we earn. That's defiance. This time, no longer of the MEC. It says defiance of the law. That says the MEC will tell you what you earn. But because the MEC got the Treasury guidelines from Treasury, and there was a covering letter of the MEC of Provincial Treasury, it's a defiance of another MEC. And that is why my initial question, which Ngadiman thought he's covering all of them by saying we apologize, not just apologize, we apologize profusely. I don't know what that means in English. Profusely apologize. No. Apology can't. You have defied the MEC for leader. You have defied the Leader Act. You have defied the MEC for Provincial Treasury. And we want an explanation why that is the case. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. MEC, I think we've been dealing with one question because you still have other questions that you need to deal with. Can I please give you 5 minutes just to go out and focus? How to Mr. Ngadiman how to respond? Because I think we're going to spend hours and hours in one thing. Maybe if you can sit down as a team, how to Mr. Ngadiman to respond? So I think it will be okay. Honorable members, I think 5 minutes, I think it will be enough.
The proposal is that, Chair, if lunch is ready, they can pick up lunch
You
and
can just sit for 5
lunch.
minutes, then from there we go for lunch, then when you come back, maybe at least you can also go through other questions so that when you respond how honorable members wanted to hear. That is why when you prolong the Ngadiman, come with other things because it looks like maybe you're trying to, defend yourself, to protect yourself. So let it not be that way. I think other members, they do understand exactly what you want. If you can just go out at least to go and focus, then come back and give us the exact answer. Then also go for lunch. Honorable members, let's adjourn for lunch.